B.P. Singh, chairperson of this session, and panel experts, Professor Devi Singh, Professor N.D. Mathur, Professor V.K. Tiwari, and Professor Nisha Yadav, and Professor Manju Nayyar. I now request all the dignitaries to kindly take their seats on the dais. Let me take this opportunity to introduce you all to the dignitaries on the dais. Professor B.P. Singh is the promoter and chairperson, Society for Human Transformation and Research, SHTR, Delhi. Professor B.P. Singh is a renowned name in academics, administration, and in the field of management and commerce. Professor Singh has authored more than 20 books on various aspects of management, commerce, and economics. We welcome you, sir. Our first panel expert, Professor Devi Singh, is the Vice Chancellor, Flame University, Pune, and has been the former Director, Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Professor Singh has spent more than 30 years in teaching at top business schools in India and abroad. He has been on several GOI committees and other policy-making bodies in the higher education space. We welcome you, sir. Our second panel expert, Professor N.D. Mathur, is the Professor, Department of Economic Administration and Financial Management, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. He has earlier worked in the capacity of Dean, Faculty of Management, Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University, Jammu and Kashmir. Professor Mathur is conferred the honor of being Fellow of Indian Commerce Association in 65th All India Commerce Conference for his outstanding contribution in the field of commerce and management, held at Mumbai in 2012. We welcome you, sir, and on behalf of everyone present here, wish you a very happy birthday. Our third panel expert, Professor V.K. Tiwari, is the former General Secretary, All India Federation of University and College Teachers Association, AIFUCTO. He has also worked as a General Secretary, World Federation of Teachers Unions, as Principal, University College Fatehgarh Sahib, Punjab, as Dean, Faculty of Languages, Punjab University, and as Principal, DAV College, Jalandhar. We welcome you, sir. Our fourth panel expert, Professor Nisha Yadav, is a Controller of Examinations, the IIS University, Jaipur. Professor Yadav is associated with the Department of Sociology at the university since its inception in 1995. We welcome you, ma'am. Our fifth panel expert, Professor Manju Nayyar, is the Principal, International School of Informatics and Management, Jaipur. Some of the academics memberships under her name are Member, Regional Advisory Committee, IGNOU Regional Center, Jaipur, and Convener, Inspection Committee for MBA and MCA institutes affiliated with RTU, among many others. We welcome you, ma'am. I now request Dr. Shweta Kastia, Organizing Secretary, to present floral greetings to all the dignitaries present on the dais. Professor B.P. Singh, Professor Devi Singh, Professor N.D. Mathur, Professor V.K. Tiwari, Professor Nisha Yadav, Professor Manju Nayyar. Thank you, ma'am. We shall now begin with the first technical session. I request Professor B.P. Singh, chairperson of the session, to kindly take over.
Good noon, ladies and gentlemen. I have taken the permission of the panelists, honorable panelists present here, and so also from you, to speak while sitting, because there is saving of time, coming, going, and so on and so forth. I first deem it my valued privilege and pleasure to welcome each one of you present in the panel discussion session of this two-day national seminar sponsored by the Indian Council of Social Science Research. I also congratulate the organizers of this national seminar, the IIS University. Thank God there are two I's. Otherwise it would have become IS, very dangerous kind of phenomenon, So I welcome each one of you, but I'm saddened, that the younger generation who were present in the inaugural session, they are no more here. They could have benefited a lot, because very eminent panelists are present here. Professor Devi Singh, that he was director of the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, which is said to be the fourth in the country, if I'm not wrong. You might say third.
Fourth that was set up in that sequence.
He was its director for 2 consecutive terms. Prior to that, he was also the director of MDI, Management Development Institute, Gurgaon, the NCR region, It is one of the very, illustrious management institution. So you must give a big hand to Professor Devi Singh for his august presence here. On my right is Professor N.D. Mathur, belonging to the University of Rajasthan. And he has his anchorage to the Department of Economic Administration and Financial Management, a nomenclature which was given by my guru, Professor Om Prakash Ji, under whose able teaching I was one of his students at the University of Allahabad. He was a rare species of the old-time academicians who was the founder professor of commerce at University of Rajasthan during the time of late Dr. Mohan Singh Mehta. He was an institution in itself, and he established academic practices and norms which are still the benchmarks for the university administration. I am lucky that he was, my guru, Professor Om Prakash Ji, was his supervisor, Professor N.D. Mathur. And Professor N.D. Mathur has also the distinction of having served the Central University of Rajasthan, Kishangarh, for about 2 to 3 years, and then he moved back to his parent university because of the rigmarole of these pensionary benefits. Fortunately, today is his birthday. You must all, give him a very happy birthday, long and healthy life, in years and decades to come. On my left is a distinguished academic who owes his bread and butter to the discipline of English literature. Am I right or wrong?
Ji.
In British regime, if one wanted to be a principal or vice chancellor, only those names were considered who belonged to the English literature department. And happily he has also a background of being a very active trade union teachers trade union leader. He was general secretary of IFECTO, All India Federation of University
and College Teachers
and College Teachers Association organization. It used to be dominated by the left ideology, and Professor Tiwari obviously must have belonged to that ideology. Whether he still swears by that ideology or not, that I don't know. But he has turned out to be very pragmatic now. So please give him a big hand to Professor Tiwari. And then there are two academics on my left and right who are the house-grown products of this university. Professor Nisha Yadav, controller of examinations of this university, the host university. She is a sociologist. So it's all a question of sociology, that we are going to debate. And another one is Professor Manju Nair, principal ISIM, Jaipur. Well, this is it's an organ of this very university. We have 2 hours and as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listed speakers. On an average, I would expect each speaker to take 15 minutes or so that half an hour is available for floor participation. That's very important, let me tell you. And I will forego my presentation because tomorrow also I am listed as one of the speakers like these 2 great personalities. But I would raise only 2 issues. One, what is really education? Forget about higher and lower and middle. Is education essentially an activity related to passing examination and earning degrees? Perhaps it is not. And in the change milieu, we have to define, because the morning session chief guest highlighted about change. Change in the past, change in the present, and change in the future. Change is the law of nature. But is this change a welcome change, or a desirable change, or an inevitable change? And this is where the greatest challenge lies. To take away the higher education from the examination oriented. यहाँ तो controller साहिबा बैठी कौन है? Right? It has become, examination oriented. We say that there is a wide gap between metropolitan education centers, big cities education centers, and the rural education centers. Where that the chief guest in the morning said, on the mic answers are dictated, our books are allowed, you can copy it down, pass the examination, get the degree, become eligible for appointment as a bus conductor thanks to the good offices of the MLA or MP. Is it the purpose of education? This is just a question. I can read some of the relevant, only two sentences. Higher education provides people with an opportunity to reflect on the critical social, economic, cultural, moral, and spiritual issues facing humanity. It contributes to national development through dissemination of specialized knowledge and skills. It is therefore a critical factor for survival. This is what I feel about education, and I would like to quote Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who defined what is education while delivering the convocation address at the University of Allahabad. A university stands for humanism. First word is humanism. For tolerance, there is a debate going on tolerance, intolerance, and so on. For reason, for the adventure of ideas, and for search of truth, what we call research, what we call meditation, what we call aligning with the cosmos, and so on. It stands for the onward march of the human race towards even higher objectives. If the universities discharge their duties adequately, then it is well with the nation and the people. Now Pandit Nehru of 50s, what he said. And the higher education strides, which I have a lot of figures, to show that quantitatively we have grown quite, well. But in terms of, forget quality, in terms of the basic purpose for which education is made, forget about higher education. Are we moving on the right path? Sir, this is a question for you people to answer. And second point, this was what is education. Second point to which I would like to draw attention, we have a body known as the University Grants Commission. अब सब जानते हैं, ग्रांट्स हम लोगों को मिलती है, तनख्वाह मिलती है. It was set up in 1956 through an act of parliament. It was patterned on the British University Grants Committee. In Britain it is called committee, here it is known as commission. It was glorified, And its basic purpose, thrust, were threefold. One, disbursement of grants to colleges and universities, as the name suggests. Two, monitor their development and progress, particularly to promote and coordinate the university education and to determine and maintain standards of teaching, examination, and university education, and to determine and maintain standards of teaching, examination, and universities in consultation with the central/state governments. It's a concurrent subject, education, where center can also legislate and states can also legislate. Now it's a point to be examined. Is this concurrent arrangement doing well, or it needs to be re-examined, revisited, and corrective policies to be designed and implemented? Three, this is more relevant. See that universities function in free academic atmosphere. Please underline. See that universities function in free academic atmosphere and that they are not fettered either with the political or bureaucratic handcuffs. This was UGC is to ensure. My basic question is UGC itself autonomous? This is a basic question. Similarly, this body which has funded this seminar, or anybody for that matter, AICT and so on and so forth, Medical Council of India, Dental Council of India and so on. ये जो सत्ता का जो प्रभाव है, सत्ता का जो आंच है, क्या इन संस्थाओं पे पड़ रही है या नहीं पड़ रही है? तिवारी जी, आपके इलाके सब्जेक्ट बहुत बढ़िया है जी। आपके बैकग्राउंड को देखते हुए, क्योंकि आप ट्रेड यूनियन लीडर रहे हैं टीचर्स के, ये जो संस्था हमारी स्वायत्तता को बचाने के लिए बनी थी, वो खुद ही नहीं स्वायत्त, तो हमें क्या बचाएंगे? इन 3 बिंदुओं के साथ और 2 मुद्दों के साथ मैंने अपना जो इंट्रोडक्टरी रिमार्क्स था वो दिया है। अब आप विद्वानों से ये मेरी इल्तिजा है कि 15 से 20 मिनट में इस अपने अपने प्रेजेंटेशन को आप लोग जो है विराम दें, ताकि हम लोग जो है जो बैठे हैं वो कम विद्वान नहीं है, वो भी विद्वान है, वो भी अपना योगदान कर सके। नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट the former director of IIM Lucknow, Professor Devi Singh, and presently he is the Vice Chancellor of one of the universities in Pune, which is a private university. Lovely, क्या नाम? Flame, विद्या की ज्योति. Professor Devi Singh.
My presentation is there. Good morning, good afternoon.
Very nice, sir.
Professor BP Singh, I think he's guru to most people sitting here, and I'm sure there. And my dear friend Professor Mathur, Tiwari ji, Manju Nair, Nisha Yadav, and all distinguished academics. Being in education, I'm sure I don't have to reiterate to you the importance of education, what education is supposed to do, how it is supposed to transform an individual, societies, economic systems, and in the end, the world. I think if you look at cultured societies, developed nations, if you look at scholars, wisdom, I think everywhere we can link it back to the quality of education and the quality of training. Countries are where they are today. They are there because they took leadership in certain key areas in their higher education setup. If you look at countries like US, I think universities in US, right from the days when they conceived this whole concept of land grant universities, their entire, societal, economic transformation has been kind of led by the higher education of the university system. Including cities came around great universities, the entire defense and the scientific infrastructure that got developed was again there was close network of universities and other institutions, and people say even their foreign policy, the way they dominate the world, the way they have taken leadership, of course at the political level, at the economic level, and of course at the defense level, universities have played an important role because they made sure that anyone who matters anywhere in the world must become in some of their spokesperson or advocate of what the American system believes in terms of freedom, liberty, and whatever they say. And all those people have, at some stage or the other, have been part of the higher education system in the US, including most of our leaders and most of our business people in India. So today, in the morning, we heard that, of course, education has to strive for excellence. Education also has to be accessible, and people should have the freedom to pursue their interest as far as the educational, choices are concerned. In India, unfortunately, given the fact that we still have 600 million plus people to be trained over the years, we're looking at skilling another 500, almost 500 people out of it. That means 50 million every year over the next 10 years. It's a huge task. And right now, if I may say, India is in the same mode as we were, prior to opening up, where because somewhere we had the constraint, whether it was a foreign exchange constraint or whether it was a capital constraint, we were all, our emphasis was on investments. Let's create capacity, let's create investment, and hopefully things will happen. And so we were regulating investments, who can invest, who cannot invest, where you can invest, where you cannot invest, and all of that. And the kind of system we created ended up creating inefficient overcapacities and imbalances. It's a little controversial to say this, but maybe not exactly the same, but right now we are in the same mode as far as the educational sector is concerned. We are in the process of building institutions, creating capacity, opening up engineering institutes, opening up central universities, adding more IIMs, adding more IITs. So we realized that somewhere capacity is not enough, so let's first concentrate on building new institutions, and rest of it hopefully will take care. Rightly so, it needs to be done. In the process, I won't say the whole concern about excellence and quality has been kind of ignored or had not been looked into. But things take time and everything cannot be done, at the same time, and also sequentially you need to figure out what needs to be done. 2025 is not far away. The world is looking up to India in terms of economic explosion, if I may use the word, like China. If people are saying if India can continue to grow, unless we mess it up again, unless we can, if we can continue to grow at 7 or 8%, the kind of size, sheer size, and the volumes of market and economy we are looking at is phenomenal. And given the fact that we have so many young people, we are a young nation, we will be having surplus manpower, skilled manpower, hopefully, to provide to the rest of the world. And in terms of sheer capacity, we need to cater to an additional capacity of close to 140 million more by the year 2025, 2030. That is the FICCI estimates and this report by FICCI. So long way to go. Should we follow the current model, the 3-tier model that we have? There are institutions which are looking at, in the morning, as Pujari talked about, excellence and employability, institutions which are at the top in terms of research, focused excellence, focused institutions, and some institutions in the middle which will continue to provide, education which will be good from the employability perspective, and then institutions which will, educate the masses. The model seems to have worked well so far. Whether the same model will work or it needs to be tweaked, I think we need to look at it. The fact is that world is changing fast. One can say the impact of globalization, impact of technology, impact of the boundaries of the markets missing. All of that and the uncertainty growing, geopolitical situation changing, I think we'll need to have a different kind of a framework which will have to, will have to willy-nilly or necessarily imbibe flexibility, imbibe mobility, will have to bring in technology more extensively in terms of how we teach and what we teach, and also teachers of the kind who will not teach what they want to teach or what they learn that they can teach best, will have to learn and grow as the requirement of the student population change, because I think it has to be a parallel system where students will have to keep learning, and so will have to the teachers, because teachers will have to adopt new technologies, will have to bring in new material, because today students do not come to the class necessarily because you're giving them some additional information or some additional data or trying to excite them by giving some story. They're going to come to class because they find classes exciting, and at the end of the day they go out feeling that, look, I learned something new that perhaps I could not have learned on my own. Because yes, India society is going to become knowledge-based society, but knowledge, please remember, ladies and gentlemen, is also available on the internet. You can Google and virtually download anything. Okay? And prepare a lecture in flat 7-8 hours to speak in the class tomorrow. So that kind of learning will have to continue, and the changes will happen. I've submitted a small note where I've looked at issues, where they look how our curricular practices will have to change, how courses, it's true that Indian mindset is that unless you get into a technology or some other professional, educational system, you're not going to get in your life what, as a professional, what you're looking for. And therefore, taking Professor Pujari's example that perhaps political science is not something parents will encourage too much, but I think times are changing, because the one fallout, seriously negative fallout of this emphasis and kind of a reckless expansion in technical education, whether it's engineering, management, or some of the other areas, has been the fact that again, the focus has been on numbers, and our education has become very, very narrow. It's physics, chemistry, maths, starting at the age 14, and all along until such time that you're finishing your engineering program. If you throw in a course here or there, I think the disdain or the impression is that, why do I need to take this course? It's not part of my mechanical engineering or computer science program, so why the hell should I do it? So at the end of the day, you are producing what I call morons, who have no perspective of how life works, how real life problems are solved, because no problem is an engineering problem, strictly, and no problem is a management problem or a finance problem strictly, unless you understand the context, unless you understand the you know, the background, unless you understand the people with whom you're working, and unless you understand, you know, the resources and the constraints that are there. So it's important that our education has to become more interdisciplinary, has to become more broad-based, and today it's more important that people know a little bit of philosophy and the political science and the history than it ever was. Even if they want to pursue engineering or they want to pursue maths, because broad-based, because your ability to connect dots, your ability to appreciate other perspectives, your ability to effectively communicate will depend on your understanding of issues which are so interconnected. So I've looked at all of these issues. Faculty is a constraint, will continue to be a constraint. It's a major, as part of a UGC committee on faculty shortage and incentive structure, and we figured out, in spite of the fact that all kinds of data is produced by institutions and universities, 35 to 45% is a shortage across period. No debate, this is artifact. So where is the investment in building or creating new faculty coming from? Who is going to put in money? There has been a reckless expansion in capacity. Private sector has pitched in and taken and playing a very important role. People may just say that look, quality is an issue, and partly because there's been so much expansion in the private sector, but they're also playing an important role on the other level. But who's going to invest? And as we talked in the morning, fundamental research, taking research and the knowledge to the next frontier, and PhD programs and preparing teachers. So this is a big challenge, and it's going to continue that way. Technology, I think technology is defining our life, and I think as you all, I'm sure you'll appreciate, mobile has replaced so many things already. You don't need so many things that you need to use. You used to use earlier, and mobile is doing a lot of this thing. And so is the case in the classroom. The people are talking about all kinds of things, all kinds of delivery models and all that. People say they are the panacea, they will solve all our problems. I don't think so. They will solve problems provided we know what we want and how we use that technology. Right? Governance is another area where there are issues, and we need to look at a perspective where government has to step back. Okay? Step back and ensure outcome-based, educational system and governance which will enforce that. The funding has to be based on output. Individuals will produce, not a blanket funding to institutions whether they do well or not. So there are so many issues, and in academic system, governance is always two-tier. It is basically all processes, what is delivered in the classroom is run by academics, the faculty, and they know it best, and they are the ones who should do it. And the supervisory governance could be at a different level, boards, and there again, a serious interface with faculty. So some of these areas are a big, it's like a, right now a lot of churning is already happening in higher education space. There's attrition happening as far as the professional institutions are concerned. There are quality concerns being, raised at all levels from the employability perspective, and the people are saying the only answer to all of that is accreditation. And again, in accreditation, the faith that you need to have in accrediting agencies. Accreditation globally is run by professionals with no government interference whatsoever. Do we have such professional agencies in India who have our confidence when it comes to accreditation? So a lot of these issues need to be addressed. I have a short presentation just to run through that if you look at higher education, next one, okay, for me only, I have to do it. Okay, all right. So if you look at it, education, of course, is a tool for empowering individuals and what you call, nation building. There's no two ways about it. I don't have to emphasize this. We know that India will become, I think there's something before that. This is the one. We know that there's a relationship between competition and GDP. The moment India started opening up, the moment the global competition grew, our organization started becoming more efficient, GDP started growing faster, so there's a linkage there. There's also a linkage between openness and growth. People who are students of economics will know this. There's also a serious connection between credit, markets and GDP growth. Similarly, people say democracy and growth, there's a linkage. The skeptics in India argue that it's because of democracy that our growth has been subdued to some extent vis-a-vis China. I won't agree with that. Okay, and similarly, there's a kind of what you call connection between gross enrollment and the GDP. And therefore, education, as they say, is the key for economic and social mobility and transformation in the end. So we need to reinforce that point, no rocket science to really understand that. If you look at, in terms of, it is who empowers individuals, the education empowers individuals. And we are looking at empowering the deprived sections, the women, and the overall citizenry, and I think that's a precondition as far as nation building is concerned. Can I come that side? And I can shout, that's not a problem. It's okay.
You can take this.
Yeah. Don't worry about it, I can talk. So we all know that India is going to become a knowledge society in 21st century, and 21st century people say is going to be a knowledge century. Knowledge. All right. See, this is what the Prime Minister said. The whole idea of building a knowledge society is the idea of empowering young men and women through education and ensuring that all the delivery systems are built on the premise of the latest knowledge. And everybody is looking up to India because India is emerging already as a regional educational hub as far as Asia is concerned, especially Southeast Asia is concerned. So it is a big challenge if India has to transition from current stage to what we are hoping by 2025. It's a big challenge, and therefore we need what they call the big leap. Small tinkering, small initiatives are not going to take you too far. So whole debate about new education policy, what kind of education, how school to college, to skills, to vocational to professional, all of this, how it should be linked. Okay, what should be the role of the universities, the colleges, the ITIs and everyone else? Should there be an option for people to pick up credits as they go? It's like you earn as well as you learn. So you have a full-time job, like in the US they do. They earn a credit here and there and keep adding those credits, and they decide maybe to move back to college for a year and earn a degree because they already have the requisite credits. So I think we need a very different kind of mindset, a different kind of structure, a different kind of policy and push, and as well as supported by different actors in the whole what you call in the matrix. Whatever. All right. So if you look at for future, we need to look at, do we have the resources? Is our current strategy good enough to handle this? And do we have the processes in place? I think our academic processes have been questioned for a long time because of what Professor Singh talked about, UGC is supposed to do certain things, but UGC, if they themselves have some issues, then whole mandate may not be fulfilled either for lack of resources or for any other reasons, because so I'll be a little more guarded.
Any other reason is more important.
Yeah, I will be more guarded in my this thing then so this is where you need to look at it. Is our current strategy in line with future vision? I don't think so. Can the current structure suited to make India a knowledge society? Again, I don't think so, because creating new institutions, churning out graduates, people then complaining about if you test their learning and if you look at assess their skills and communication and the capacities and I'm sure a lot of you have often hear those comments. There are people coming lamenting at people, as academics, what are you guys doing? Look at the graduates you produce, they don't know this, they don't know that, they don't have the capacity to communicate. How can we hire them? The kind of do our current processes ensure excellence? I don't think so. Who is responsible in the end? And if we can fix some of these 5-6 points, let me tell you, resources are not an issue. I can assure you resources are not an issue. Resources can be created. Resources can be generated. Alright? Yes, we used to say we can't build infrastructure because we don't have resources. Today, I don't think resource constraint is an issue. If we can set our policies and the regulatory structure in place, there are people who are lining up with bags of money, they are willing to come. The moment they are convinced that you will not charge a tax on me 10 years back, going 10 years back, you will not suddenly say tomorrow to me that you cannot do this. If you clarify what I am supposed to do, if you tell me very clearly these are the policies, I am willing to invest in India because I know there are 1.3 billion people. Alright? So I think this whole debate has to be seen in that perspective. So, if knowledge becomes a production factor, university institutions of higher learning will become knowledge factories. People are saying that's how it is, I mean, today, people don't hire you. What they hire you for? They hire you for ideas. They hire mavericks today. They say, hey, I don't want two people with the same skill set, the same knowledge. I need different people. So, organizations looking at future because as often, I think it's a very popular word, I'm sure all of you know, VUCA word. Volatile, uncertain, all of that. National planning and funding arrangements can affect these knowledge production processes, and university enterprise partnership will have to, because I think this whole again debate about why the practicing world is not communicating with the academics in India. We always say academy, industry academia interface. I'm sure there are seminars on that, is that right? And still we are not able to make a big breakthrough because our processes don't support it. And university will have to take a new form. A clear national vision, which will be required for higher education for 20, 30 years. It needs to address current and future needs. We all know that. Let's set a direction first. And let's then set the rules of the game. Then let's define and provide for what is known the enablers and leave academics free. At the end of the day, academics are people who need to be left free because universities are where they find Panditji's terms, humanism and ability to, go to a higher plane. Greater integration and connection between institutions and disciplines required for cross-pollination and innovation and balance between degree and non-degree programs. Non-degree programs in this country are like despised. People say, whatever that is. Come on. In the US, the ratio is 1:7. 1 degree, 7 non-degree. And all these little non-degree programs finally can lead to degree. Give me a pace. Give me my flexibility when I want to earn a degree. Right? Certain and define, that you don't, like today, I mean, I don't want to, because that's not my nature, but you look at it. Fortunately, 6th pay commission had done away with fourth grade as a peons, etc. last time itself. Otherwise, you advertise one position for a fourth grade, position, vacancy, and you will have how many people with master's degree will apply. I mean, that's the kind of disconnect we have today. So, make them enablers for excellence and for experimentation of our processes. Need to experiment. It should be outcome-based, what you call learner-centric system. Everybody doesn't learn at the same pace. Everybody will not learn everything. And everybody doesn't want to do, all the courses. Can you create that flexibility and define this is the minimum requirement for you to earn this skill, this level of understanding, and then it is good for a degree. We need to have a national credit framework. We are evolving one. We need to also have a kind of broad structure of national, what you call the curriculum framework. A national level policy needed for faculty development and academic research, who monitors quality and faculty output. We have to have professional bodies doing it by professionals. I often make this statement, which is controversial, that the biggest damage to academics, higher education, will be done by us itself, the academics itself. It's not so much the government, because we are the ones who sit on most committees who create new policies. And research to become priority to fulfill national goals, and of course, our regulatory system is still, it's like we are still tagged in our thought process, because educational institutions are the slowest to change. Change is a way of life, as our Guruji said, but we are the slowest to change. Professor Rakesh Khurana once was speaking at the ASBSC conference, annual conference in, Tampa, Florida, and I was there, and he made a statement about Harvard Business School. He said, Harvard has 100-year history with little change. This is a statement made by a professor, very well respected professor of Harvard, about his own school. 100 years history with very little change. Academics are happy in what they are doing, because academics are also a place where the standards of accountability have been the minimum. Everywhere else, we have been able to push the standards up. In academics, we don't like to question each other. Sorry, it's a little controversial, but that's the... Okay. But, and so, of course, invest a view to make India education at East Asia institutions do not fail. At the end of the day, it's the leadership that fails, and that's where the problem is. And I think leadership pipeline is a big area. Like faculty is a big area of concern, so is the leadership. I think most academic institutions suffer from, that vision that lacks at the leadership level. And I think, as they say, institutions don't fail, leaders do. And that's how the institutions fail. Thank you very much, sir.
Very nice presentation. Well, friends, we had a very nice and very comprehensive presentation from Professor Devi Singh, covering almost all the aspects of higher education and linking it with economic development. That was his basic thrust, How education in the 21st century would be linked to economic development. Many points I have noted. I don't want to highlight those points. More than a page I have noted down. But one thing which I think paucity of time. What about the students? सारी बात कही, क्या होना चाहिए, क्या आदर्श है, क्या हो रहा है विश्व में, इंडिया में, सब कुछ. लेकिन विद्यार्थियों का जो इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, क्या वो सही रास्ते पे है? अगर सही रास्ते पे होता तो इतनी समस्या हमारे देश में ना. They are like suckers, if they are serious, they can suck the knowledge from the teacher. Teacher will be forced to go prepared and do his or her best to satisfy the students.
Very good, very well said.
खैर सोचिए आप लोग, अभी तो डिस्कशन होगा. Thank you, sir, once again for having made a very nice presentation, and you covered almost all the aspects of higher education in the context of world, in the context of time frame, in the context of what we have been in the past and what we are at present. Now I request Professor N.D. Mathur to make his presentation with a request to kindly confine yourself to 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. तोड़ दो ये क्षितिज में भी देख लूं उस और क्या है.
वाह वाह.
तोड़ दो ये क्षितिज में भी देख लूं उस और क्या है. जा रहे जिस पथ से युग कल्प उसका छोर क्या है.
ये जन्मदिन का है, उड़ जाएंगे.
Thank you for mentioning my birthday here and giving me more energy by this. My birthday was never celebrated academically like this. I am overwhelmed. Professor B.P. Singh Sahab, Professor Devi Singh Ji, Professor Tiwari, Dr. Manju Nayar, Dr. Nisha Yadav, and friends. I admire the efforts of IIS University for organizing this conference and having invited to you. The topic is Higher Education 2025. And when I was preparing for this, when I was asked to prepare for this and give a presentation here and an article in this souvenir which has been released in the morning. In fact, these days I have looked for three important books. One is The World is Flat by Thomas L. Friedman. The other one is by Ray Kurzweil, and that is Singularity is Near. And the third one is Future of Business by Rohit Talwar. And all these books talk about drivers of change. Things are changing very fast, whether it is business or it is science and technology. Singularity is approaching, or the integration is approaching, or the convergence is approaching, or it is world is flat, the flattening of the world. Thomas Friedman says that the world is flattening, and he talks about 10 important flatteners, right from new age creativity to new age communication, then outsourcing, insourcing, supply chain management, offshoring, downloading, uploading, and then finally the digital steroids. And these are the drivers of change. That world is flattening, and so is the business is flattening, so is the education is flattening. The change is in every walk of life, whether it is education sector, or it is health sector, or it is business sector. It is in every walk of life. The change is inevitable. Now these drivers of change are bringing change in education also, and there are milestones ahead. And these milestones are that now education will not remain traditional, conventional. It will be, as Professor Devi Singh Ji has rightly said, it will be technology driven. And teachers or education will be not for just necessarily for survival. Education will be for fulfillment. Education will be for not only fulfillment, but it will be for value addition. Advanced technology and digital tools will be there. Video learning and distance education, explosion of internet. You see, gaming will come in education now. एक जमाना था, गेमिंग वॉज अपोजिट ऑफ एजुकेशन. कहा जाता था खेलोगे कूदोगे बनोगे खराब और पढ़ोगे लिखोगे बनोगे नवाब. No, gaming will be the part of education. There will be no opposition between two. You can learn through games. So the cartoon characters will start teaching alphabets to the students. So there will be gaming in education. It will be technology driven. Our Prime Minister has mentioned about Imran Khan of Anwar in Britain, that he has developed 52 apps in education, and these apps have been they have been released and they have been given to education. So our education will be technology oriented, education will be game oriented, and video learning will be there, explosion of internet will be there, and I think in times to come we will have two types of, we will have a teacher also, and then we will have not only the teacher but the artificial intelligence also with the teacher. Then open education and resources are the other areas. The free flow of resources will be there. So Devi Singh was mentioning that resources are no more a problem. But in a country like ours, resources have always been a problem. We have tons